21st, 2023 special meeting of the Montgomery Independent School District Board of Trustees. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's 4 o'clock. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Ms. Alcantara, are there any public comments? There are no registered public speakers tonight. The board will go into closed session for the reasons listed on our agenda. We'll return shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, we are returning from closed session. There is an action item that we need to take. Board members, are there any motions?
We don't have them.
Administrative contract.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the administrative contracts as presented.
All right, thank you, Ms. Porton. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Kirby seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and abstain. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. I believe that is all the motions we have from the closed session, so I would like to adjourn closed session. The special meeting, excuse me. And moving right along, this is the March 21st, 2023 regular meeting of the Montgomery Independent School District Board of Trustees. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us tonight. Dr. Morrison, are there any special recognitions or presentations?
Dr. Fuller, there are some special recognitions tonight, and you might hear a lot of clanking, and you might think we're recognizing some musical programs, but that's just the clank of medals.
Yes, sir. For
some amazing student achievement. So I'm going to ask Justin Moreno, our Assistant Superintendent of Communications, to come forward and let us recognize some exemplary students tonight.
State champions in the house. So I would like to really recognize the academic decathlon students from both high schools tonight. As I call your name, please come up. But these students work so hard to get to the state competition. Their achievements this year were outstanding. At Lake Creek, we had 2 state champions. Brett Harrington in music and Crystal Moons in literature. So come on up. And also at Lake Creek, medalists were Liliana Reese for 3rd place in economics and Nathan Weber, 3rd place in science. As a team, Lake Creek finished 12th place overall in the state, and other team members include Elijah Teague, Aiden Kaplan, and Sydney Pless. And of course, they're led by the academic sponsor and teacher, Eric Moons. Mr. Moons, come on up. And at Montgomery High School, we had 3 state champions: Addison Hedges in literature, Stephen Sladewski in social science. I hope I got that right, Stephen. And Peyton Lawson in social science. MHS also had some medalists. Addison Hedges was third in social science. Christy Telthorster was third in literature and third in social science. And Owen Brown was third place in social science, third place in interview, and third place in art. The team as a whole finished 9th place overall in the state, and also includes Kyler Soap, Logan Watson, Adam Nunez, and Jackson Welsh. And they are led by academic sponsor MHS and teacher Mr. Justin Williams. Also want to add, board, Dr. Morrison, how hard Mr. Moons and Mr. Williams I know have worked to build up these programs and recruit for next year. So we appreciate their leadership as the academics, teachers, and sponsors. Do a photo with the board.
We have to have like a lot of a lot of compression. Actually, maybe we can make. Yeah. Okay. And on the end, can I have you step out a little bit? There you go. Just so we can see every face. Nate, I can't see you. Can you scooch in? There you go. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. I'm going to take a view. 1, 2, 3. I think I can see everybody. Okay, great. Thank you all so much. Congratulations.
Mr. Moons and/or Mr. Williams, I would, for the average person who's like, okay, academic, it sounds really academically focused, and they obviously are very successful, but give us the elevator pitch. What's academic?
Is this on? Okay.
It is.
So Academic Decathlon, we're given a topic each year. And this year the topic was the American Revolution. And they give us, there's 7 topics that we cover. It's art, literature, economics, music, social science, math, and science. And they study about 1,000 pages worth of material, and then they go and take tests on it. So with those 7 core pieces, they do the test. They also have a speech, an interview, and an essay, and an impromptu speech that they also participate in. So it's a year-long thing. They study this one thing in depth, and then that's what they do, and that's what they take their test on every year. Oh, plus a novel that they read. Yeah, it's a lot of information. So the new topic come out for next year. What is it, guys? Technology and something or another. So we've already started. Looking at that material for the next year, and they've already jumped into the novel and read that, and they're working hard to prepare for next year already. So. Takes a lot. You got anything for them?
I concur.
Anything else you guys would like to know?
Anything else, board? Well, we just want to say a sincere thank you to the
great job.
coaches and also to the parents and, to the students. Y'all put in extra hours. Y'all work all year round on this. You're making our community proud, and we are exceptionally honored to hear the jingling tonight, and I hope that next year we'll hear even more. So thank y'all for everything you do.
All right, thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Morrison, are there any other special recognitions?
There are.
Yes, Dr. Morrison and board, we're also very excited to recognize a few very impressive Lions from Lake Creek. Lauren Matula made history for Lake Creek High School in Montgomery ISD. She was the first swimmer to medal at the state in school history. So not only did she medal, but she won gold medal, and she was a double medalist, earning silver in the 200 free with a time of 1 minute and 51 seconds, just 0.42 seconds behind first place, so she almost got two. And she won gold in the 500 free with a time of 4 minutes and 57 seconds. Wow.
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 And we also have our state runner-up in diving, Julie Moons. She received a silver medal with a score of 430.6. So, two outstanding achievements. Congratulations, and I understand you'll be back next year to try to defend your gold and maybe get gold this time. So.
All right, well, from academics to athletics, we are certainly excelling here in Montgomery, and y'all are making us proud, so thank you for all that you're doing. Any other special recognitions?
That is it for tonight.
Ms. Alcantar, are there any registered public comments? There are no registered public comments, so the board will move now to consent agenda, which consists of meeting minutes and a few other items. Board members, are there any other elements that you would like to pull off the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would like to hear a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All right, thank you, Ms. Turner. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Robb. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The consent agenda carries. All right, folks, we are on into action items for the evening. Action item 6A, consider approval of purchase over $50,000 for Smart Tag Transportation Monitoring System. Mr. Lynn.
Yeah, good evening, Board. It's my pleasure this evening to ask Mr. Eric Taylor, our Director of Transportation, to come forward and present information about a service that will drastically improve our transportation operations. So this may be your first time to actually meet Mr. Taylor, I don't know, but he's completing his first year with the district, and we're so fortunate to have him. So, Mr. Taylor?
Thank you. Good evening. Yes, I decided to wait until I had to speak to you before I showed up at a board meeting. Thank you, trustees, for allowing me to be here tonight and present to you this plan. Since taking my position here this past summer, it's been clear that our district takes safety and our students very seriously. I hope that what I have to share with you this evening will help meet those goals and also meet the current expectations of our administrators and parents. Let's see. First time using that. There we go. Okay, so the strategic plan alignment, goal 2, school safety, key performance indicators 2.3.1 and 2.3.2. Read those out. Finance and operations, my personal favorite, 3.4.3, current satisfaction of transportation department. So that's what we're aiming for here with this new system. A little bit about how we're operating this year. On average, we transport about 2,200 elementary and 2,100 junior high and high school students every day. Our buses drive roughly 5,000 miles per day. I brought that up because right now I'm letting my drivers count kids daily and bring that information to me. Part of this system will eliminate that human error. We currently have 53 regular routes and 12 special routes, and we'll probably expand to at least 2 or 3 more before the beginning of next school year, just based on our growth. We have 23 regular and 5 special needs buses, thanks to the bond, that are on order. And we've received 1, so we're very happy about that bus. And we're hoping to see a few more in the next couple of weeks. The selection process for this system, we looked at a lot of different offerings out there. In essence, what we're trying to do is find a way to get our kids on our buses safely, be able to monitor where they're getting on and off the bus, and allow our parents to have that information. So with that combination of factors, we narrowed it down to 2 systems, SmartTag and Tyler Drive. We brought in some school-based administrators, a few of my bus drivers, and some technology leadership individuals to help us look through these 2 systems to determine what would be best for us. And SmartTag has the better reputation. It's got more existing satisfied customers, and I've got some examples of that later on. And I think it has some specific tools that are really what we're looking for here at MISD. So it allows us also the flexibility of being independent of any other software packages. Tyler Drive is tied directly to our existing routing software. And with the world of software these days, I don't want to be tied to anything specific. So an independent system is also an advantage for us. So what is SmartTag? SmartTag is basically a system that allows our kids who will already have their ID tags to use those in conjunction with a tablet that's going to be on the bus to tap on, and using that connection we'll know where the student got on the bus, where the bus was by virtue of the tablet, and where that student got on at their stop, and where they got off at the school, and reverse in the afternoon when they get on at the school and off at their bus stop. So at that point we will know where every student who's on our buses is at any given moment while they're on the bus. It will allow the school officials to know, hey, did so-and-so get on the bus? Yes, they did. Right, real time, they'll have that information at their fingertips. And parents will also get notifications by logging onto a website to make sure that their kids are getting on and off the bus. It'll also allow us to know where our buses are. Currently, I don't have that information. GPS has been out there for a little while, so we're kind of leaping past that step and going straight through to a student monitoring system, which I'm really looking forward to. SmartTag also provides immediate information regarding which students are on the bus, and it also automates the things I was talking about, like how many kids are on my bus. Every year we have to do a state report, 2 reports actually for the state of Texas that require me to count kids and mileage. Right now, that's a manual process. This will eliminate some of that. We're also looking at how it can help us with our SHARS reporting, which is a special needs report system. So this just gives a boilerplate, a little bit of information from their website. It improves safety and security and visibility and communications for transportation. There's facets for the transportation department, dispatching. There's elements that will advance my drivers. Campus people will have access to this. The students obviously will have their ID tags and will be able to get on and off the bus, and the parents will know that. So how it works, like I said, I just have an ID tag just like this. It's got a code in the back. It's a RFID. It's a random number. It means nothing to anybody. But when I tap it onto that tablet or onto that reader, it will immediately tell the driver that Eric Taylor is supposed to get on the bus at this stop. He's allowed, and this is who he is. So we'll have that photograph there, and they'll be able to know that everything is going as planned. It also allows us to use the GPS data that's on the tablet so we can follow the bus and know that the kids are there the whole time. The cards are not GPS. The cards are basically just a piece of plastic with a little film in it. They won't do anything for us once the students leave the bus. So after they tap off, it's just like any other ID card. We can't track our kids beyond that. So it's a very limited system. I don't want to give anybody any bad ideas about monitoring kids. We just know when they're on the bus and when and where they get off. It'll tell us whether or not kids are getting off at the right stop, on at the right stop. We have a lot of kids that are trying to get off and walk to different houses. Sometimes kids get confused and get off at the wrong stop. This system will allow us, the driver, to know immediately if Tommy is tapping to get off. It's going to signal red. He's not supposed to get off at that stop. Obviously, junior high and high school, we'll work on that. But when it comes to our elementary kids, we're going to want to know that immediately so we can prevent bad things from happening. And this system will do that for us. It also will allow our parents to get a notification when the bus is 10 to 15 minutes away. So by combining the GPS data and our routing information, we can give our parents a heads up. What's nice about this system is it's not just parents. For our older kids, our high school students, they can also get the alert. So mom and dad don't have to tell them, get up, get going, bus is on its way. And then if they want to, the parents can go into the system and monitor when and where their kids scan on and off. There is a possibility of that being a push notification in the future, and we're hoping that that will happen as well, and we can offer that to our parents. Let's see, I already talked about getting off at the stop. It's also lets us know that in the end of the day, if 5 kids scanned onto the bus that are supposed to get off at stop 3, and only 4 kids get off, rather than waiting to the end of the route and find out we have Tommy sleeping in the back, we can know automatically, hey, Tommy signed on, he didn't get off. Let's not travel the rest of the route before we solve that problem. Also, at the end of the day, it will count and say, okay, you had 65 kids scan on, you had 64 kids scan off, something's wrong here. Let's go back and check. And the driver will have to complete a full check and sign off, essentially making sure, once again, that we don't have any sleeping children on the back of the bus. It'll help us with the GPS tracking. We can now divert around, road construction and other things that happen here in Montgomery. It's been fun for us
You
this
said
year.
that with a little bit of tone there.
Well, yeah, 105, 149, and 2854 all at the same time. It also will allow, if we do have an incident or a delay, we can also assign a sub bus to an entire run. So it will be seamless. That sub driver will log on as the driver for that delayed run. The parents, the school, no one will know anything different because the system will then take over and allow that driver to know the stop-by-stop information and act as if it was the regular driver driving it. So it allows us to be more proactive in emergency situations. It will also allow us to send information out to just the kids who are still in the bus. Let's say we have a minor fender bender, but until we've been cleared, we can't go anywhere. So rather than sending a random information to all of the kids assigned to that route, this system will allow us to send out a notification to the 5 parents, or the parents of the 5 students still on that bus. So it creates a more isolated and directed communication for us. Cost, the fun part. Basically, the point here that I want to point out is that this is a Samsung Galaxy tablet lease program. So this particular vendor is asking us, works with Samsung to lease it. That means that every 3 years, we will receive new updated tablets. So if it's tablet 5.1 one year and they upgrade to 5.5, we will get the newest tablet at the end of that 3-year lease when we renew our lease. So that's why the annual reoccurring cost is a little higher than you might expect, because we're essentially paying for those tablets over the course of the 3 years and then getting a brand new one at the end of that system. The mounting and installation was comparable to the other vendors. Software and training, pretty comparable. And the RFID cards, we're budgeting for 10,000 right now. We'll probably increase that a little bit as we determine how many kids are going to be losing their cards. So our initial purchase is $137,431 with the reoccurring cost of roughly $43,000. Okay. Potential expansion. The good news is that we will be printing cards as we want them. So the only thing SmartTag really needs is that piece inside. Obviously, we will have the state mandated information on the back. And then the front will be whatever Montgomery ISD wants for our kids, which includes the barcodes that are already being used by the library and child nutrition systems. So it's a one-stop shop. We're also looking at how we might be able to expand this system because it's a tablet, which means it doesn't have to be on the bus. We can talk to our schools about using it for car rider lines or walkers so that we're having one-stop system to look up where our kids were when they left our buildings. It's also in communication with some other clients. I had a conversation with them today. They're looking at how the system can be used in the event of an emergency evacuation. For example, we show up with our buses, they have the tablets, the kids have their IDs. We start scanning them en route to our reunification center so we know which kids are on which buses using this system, and it will talk to each other electronically. So we're hoping that will be part of our emergency plan in the near future. Some frequently asked questions, I kind of covered it. The tag itself is just a piece of plastic with a piece of magnetic strip inside. It doesn't have any utility outside of being on the bus, so we're not tracking kids. What happens if the tablet breaks? Again, that's the part of the beauty of a lease program. If it becomes outdated or breaks, we will have a contract with them for that. And then if it's lost or stolen, like any good technology these days, we can disable it and track its last location. So it's also pretty well locked down. We can't add a whole lot of things to it. It's basically for this program. So its marketability outside of our bus program is pretty low. So I don't think we'll have any problems with that. How are the parents notified? Again, the web portal will allow them to go in and see, essentially like your bank account, you know, where did my kids scan on and scan off? I can go in and look at it, but it will also have the element of the push notification when we're within 10 to 15 minutes, and as I said, we're expanding that. What if the kids forget the cards? Well, because we're tied to our routing system, we'll know all the kids that are supposed to get on at that stop, and they can scan in, and our drivers will manually put them on the bus. So the parents will again see that they boarded the bus. It will also let the parents know that they were scanned on the bus without their ID tags. So after a few of those, we'll be able to talk to our parents about what we're going to do about our missing badges. And we'll work with our schools about that because it's not just us anymore. It's the ID for MISD as well. So these are the neighboring districts that are currently either installing the program or actively using it. So we do get some questions from parents who have moved here from our local areas. Do you have this system? We're used to using it. That was part of our factor in determining how well this company is doing, both by the number of clients and the number of close clients that are using it and happy with the system. That's what I have.
Ladies and gentlemen, are there any questions?
Is there any areas in our district that the service might be not as strong as other signals?
Yes, it is a cellular system, so as the system is driving through some of our dead areas, essentially the tablet will continue to collect the data. As soon as it gets to an area where the signal is stronger, it will push all of that backed up data out at one time. So we might see some lags in some areas where we don't have strong cell service, but we won't lose any data.
On unloading the bus at the schools, is it going to take longer scanning everybody's card, or what's the lapse time?
There isn't that much of a difference in the lapse time once we get the kids trained to just tap off. If you've ever watched an unloading, it's not that structured anyway, so we're not going to see a whole lot of difference. One of the things that we will be talking to our campuses on is, for example, loading in the afternoon. Kids who don't have their IDs with them, we'll put them in the back because that means the drivers can more quickly find the names of the kids who have not yet boarded and tap them on. So we do have some things in place to minimize that time. Loading at stops is one of the things that's where is the danger zone for school transportation, and we do want to minimize that. So we'll be working to make sure it's a quick system.
Okay.
So will this also, I think I heard you say it'll also track all of our buses, is that accurate?
It will allow me to have real-time GPS tracking of the tablets that are on the bus, so yes.
So can that be used also to help with routing?
Absolutely. We're really looking forward to something like this because it will let me know where my slowdowns are, where my traffic is. Right now, we're just going on what we have available to us from our drivers that radio in. This will help me track on-time delivery and know which buses are getting to school later than we'd like, or kids who are maybe missing breakfast 3 days out of a week. We want to know why, and we can use this data to find that out.
So in the event a bus breaks down in the middle of a route, this will show you what the closest bus is.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
it's going to take a lot of that downtime out.
Right, yeah, that's part of the dispatching tool, will allow us to send the nearest available units, or if we have to send an entire bus directly to the location without having to grab your phone and look it up and hope you get close.
So that one ID will also, I mean, so the ID that we'll be working with this software is going to be, become the new ID for everything MISD. Is that what I'm understanding?
We are replacing the current ID with this one. The only thing that the kids won't notice the difference. It'll just have a little coding on the back. So we'll just be moving forward with this ID, but since all the kids already carry them, that's where we're going. The cost difference is a little bit different, a little higher because of the RFID tag in the back, but the usefulness is way outstrips the cost difference.
Thank you.
Mr. Lynn, just on a budgetary note, what's the budget impact for next year, as we're proposing a budget for the board in May?
Sure. So as Mr. Taylor pointed out, we have an initial cost, which is about $137,000. We had planned for that expenditure as part of our bond referendum. So the general fund budget will see $0 impact for 23-24. But then as we move into 24-25, that's when that $42,915 kicks in.
And as we're developing the budget for 23-24, are we looking at the outlying years every time we propose a budget input?
Absolutely. We are charting all of that information, and so we're showing a 0 for 23-24 and $42,915 for 24-25.
Could this also be used for like after-school activities coming back from football games to notify parents in the future?
Yes, there is a component that will allow the kids to scan on field trips. I'm not exactly sure how effective it'll be when we're 10 to 15 minutes out from the school, but I do know some districts are using it to make sure they know which kids are on the field trip and which kids get back on the bus for the field trip so they don't leave anybody behind.
Other questions? Mr. Taylor, only question I have is what kind of training are we going to do for kiddos and or bus drivers? And actually I have one question after that.
2 questions. Oh my goodness. As far as the training is concerned, a lot of it's going to be in-house. The good news is with those districts that I mentioned, I've already have a core of drivers that have come from other districts that want to come and work for us, and we're going to make use of their expertise to help promote this. I think our drivers are kind of excited about having this, especially with some of the things that they won't have to do anymore. Carrying route books, counting kids, state reports. So they're looking forward to this kind of technology, and the training is fairly minimal. The system is you tap on, it tells you what's going on. There's some other pieces to it that we will be using. It does an electronic pre-trip and post-trip, which is required by law anyway. So instead of a paper copy, it will be an electronic copy. They're loving that idea. It also, the other piece, an electronic seating chart. So they'll be able to put their kids in a seating chart electronically, which we can then transmit to the schools. They'll have access to that as well. So there are some training elements we'll be doing during the summer, and then we'll kind of do a soft rollout for the beginning of the school, and then a sort of a September 1, we're going live kind of thing. But that will be in conjunction with the communication department and all the other schools, so everybody's on board.
Well, you kind of answered my second question, so now I got to make up another one.
Okay.
And that was just, if you don't mind, I saw in board book and on your presentation all the steps you went through with vetting the products. And what of the bus? I mean, you've kind of alluded to it, but could you walk me through what some of the bus drivers have said about this product? Are they excited? Are they?
Initially, there's reluctance because it's a piece of a technology, and we've got all kinds. I've got some younger folks who can't live without their phone, and I've got some folks that don't want to log into their email to save their lives. So it's going to be a bit of a struggle, but with having folks that came here and went, oh my God, you've got to get this, it helps them because their own friends and coworkers are saying this is something we really want. And like I said, it's the drivers themselves will tap on, so it's not like they have to do a lot of work. They're going to tap on, they'll use their 4-digit employee ID to access it, much like they do for logging on to get paid. And so that's something they're excited about. So they know how to do all of those pieces, and then from there, it's really just getting used to using it. The biggest pieces will be making sure that they close out at the end of the day, that if a student gets on the bus, they do take the time to log them on. And so those are going to be training pieces, but what's nice about this is that we can focus on those individuals that we're a little reluctant, because we'll have a lot of folks that are going to be just diving right in.
Great. Any other questions? All right, then is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Porton. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Thank you, and that carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much. I appreciate it.
All right, action item 6B, consider approval of MISD ed specs for renovations and new construction.
Good evening. Earlier this evening, you heard some information about new requirements from the Texas Education Agency to adopt educational specifications for our facilities. Our bond is one of the first series of bonds that are impacted by this new legislation, and so we ran through that a little earlier, but I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Board members, any questions? Then is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the approval of the specifications as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Kirby. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Hopkins, thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed and abstained. And then next item will be very similar, action item 6C, which is methods of compliance for MISD facilities.
Correct. And in this item, we're asking you to approve the quantitative method. We had two choices, quantitative and qualitative. So we're asking for you to approve quantitative. This is a decision that can be changed in the future, should we need to. But once again, a new regulation from TEA. So we want to make sure we stay in compliance with the good folks in Austin.
All right, are there questions? Then is there a motion?
I'll move to approve to adopt the quantitative method of compliance.
Thank you, Mr. Kirby. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Robb. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Dr. Fuller, if I may, just before I walk away, I just want to thank our partners and colleagues at Huckabee for doing the legwork and the research necessary to put all of this together for us and to lead us through this process. New requirements for a lot of districts across the state of Texas, and we're fortunate to have good working relationships with our different companies, and so I just wanted to thank them for their time and effort in putting this together for us.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Lane, and thank you to the Huckabee folks. It's my understanding we're one of the first to have to do this in the state, so thank you very much. All right, folks, we're on now to information items. I'd like to kind of jostle some things around a little bit, if you don't mind, mostly because Montgomery High School and Lake Creek High School baseball teams are playing each other tonight, and I need to get AD Hurd out of here in a respectful time. So if you don't mind, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to move item 7B to the first one under information items, our athletic department update.
Thank you, Dr. Fuller. As Clint Hurd comes up to the podium, I just want to share, as we do with board oversight, we have each of our departments present their strategic plan, their components to our overall strategic plan, significant KPIs, and really be able to share some of the good things that are happening in each department and also areas of focus and improvement.
we already saw tonight, we had some amazing student athletes. What I appreciate under Mr. Hurd's leadership is we don't get confused. It is student athletes. We are very, very proud of the athletic accomplishments of our students, but we focus first on the students. I have not had one time in working with Mr. Hurd where we hired a mediocre teacher to hire a great coach. We strive to hire great teachers who are also great coaches. And I just want to publicly say I thank Coach Hurd for his leadership in that area. So, Mr. Hurd.
Thank you, Dr. Morrison, for those kind words. I appreciate it. And good evening. It's nice to be with y'all again. I'm very happy to be here to talk about Montgomery ISD athletics. We are having a very good year. I anticipate us to continue our outstanding achievements both in the classroom and on the athletic venue. All right, okay, here we go. Our mission in Montgomery ISD Athletics is to provide a caring and creative environment for our kids that promotes excellence, fosters integrity, encourages each student to reach his or her potential. And what is that potential? Well, you might be the greatest thing since sliced bread in basketball, or you might be the best teammate I ever had in my life. And all those are important, and we want to know that and make sure that our kids know that every team member has value and contributes to the team, and that's something that we constantly talk to our coaches about, and it's something our coaches constantly talk to their student athletes about. We want to, in our philosophy, we believe that a dynamic athletic department is vital to the school day, to the curriculum, just to the school life that our student athletes and our students go through. I think that it helps their educational development, develops a lot of pride in whichever high school that you go to, and I think that's very important. We want to function as an integral part of total curriculum. We want to offer opportunities for growth. We want our kids to grow in the classroom. We want our kids to grow athletically. And we want them to understand that they're both very important, and we're going to push them on both ends. But the academic end, in the end, is where we certainly want to be the most successful. We also believe that athletics is based on the premise that it is a privilege, not a right. To be able to be a member of the team comes with responsibility and accountability. It's just not something that's given, it is earned. And we want to make sure that they understand teamwork, positive culture, and help them overcome adversity and learn and teach them how to handle success. And the latter, I can tell you, is a little bit harder than the former. Teaching young people how to handle success is a very important part of our job. Boy, I hope I get this right. Okay, all right. At each high school, we offer 18 sports and 43 teams to our student body. About 45% of our high school population plays UIL athletic sports. The only one that's left out of that is cheer. Each junior high, we offer 14 sports and 36 teams to our students. About 43.4% of our student body participates in athletic. The difference, we offer more sports in high school. We're very happy with that number. We'd like to continue to see it grow. It's up about 2.3% from last year, and we're going to keep working at providing our kids opportunity. I'd like to say, under Dr. Morrison's leadership and the board, we were one of the very few districts in the state of Texas that were able to get athletic items approved by our community. And most of all, I want to say thank you to our community for supporting us. I believe we have a long history in this school district of being very smart with our money and providing our kids great opportunities. And I think the community once again responded to y'all's leadership and gave us the opportunity to do some of the things that we need to do. And that, of course, that's at MHS. We're going to renovate the athletic stadium. I've been here 29 years. It was old when I got here, so with some needed light renovations, and we need to redo the tennis courts at MHS. And something that I've always been a natural grass guy. went to A&M, so I believe in agriculture, but they've just made too much improvements in synthetic turf, and they can control the bounce now, and that is something that's really going to help our teams as far as practice when it's rainy day. I mean, literally, it's going to have to be pouring exactly when you want to practice, not to be able to practice, and it's going to help us throughout the season. I think we've all experienced it. You get kind of a rainy season, and it's you know, you're waiting for fields to dry, and it seems like you're playing your entire district schedule Thursday, Friday versus Tuesday, Friday, which if you don't have enough pitching or, you know, that's going to hurt you. So I think that's a very big addition, and we are very appreciative to have that approved. And then finally, we're going to renovate the MISD athletic complex. It's, you know, the complex is 20 years old. I mean, it's, and the district's a little bit different. I remember the first day they brought the bulldozers out, I was on the second floor teaching accounting, and they were moving dirt, and we had 993 kids in our school, and it was one high school, and we thought we were huge. And so it is time to make that, and once again, we're very appreciative of our leadership and the community's ability to you know, support us. Talking about goal one in the strategic plan is academic achievement. We had 141 student athletes receive all academic honors in our district. We had 29 students receive academic all-state. So we're continuing a long tradition. It's not something that just started since we started talking about it. This is a long tradition of academic and athletic excellence at Montgomery ISD. I would be remiss if I couldn't go over some of our athletic achievements. Montgomery High School football team, you know, they had a huge year the year before. We lost a lot of really good players. We lost our coach. Grant Cooper came aboard, and we qualified for the state playoffs in football in a very difficult district. I'm very proud of the young men and the coaching staff. We had some turnover over there, and they really came through. Montgomery High School's cross-country team, we had a changeover there, and they had a regional qualifier. Powerlifting team had 2 regional qualifiers, while the girl teams had 10 regional qualifiers and 3 state qualifiers, and they'll be lifting, I think the boys are this weekend in Abilene. Our swim team at Montgomery High School had 2 relays make the state tournament and 1 individual qualifier. And then our basketball team, and this was very rewarding. It's been a long time since we've been really competitive in basketball, but Kelly Savoy and his staff have really worked hard getting kids interested in the sport, and we reached the second round of the playoffs, and that was a really good Pflugerville team, really good. And the girls, they fought them, and they hung in there for about 3.5 quarters, and finally we succumbed. Over at Lake Creek, Lake Creek won the District 10 5A Division II championship. That would be 2 years in a row. Montgomery ISD has won the district championship in football. They reached the state quarterfinals and finished with a 12-1 record. Tavon Byers was named the Class 5A Offensive Player of the Year in the entirety of Class 5A, which was a tremendous honor, especially when the young man is a sophomore. Our volleyball team, with the Montgomery ISD alum for the first time in our history, reached the state tournament. I was very proud of those girls. You know, they had some rocky roads in the district, but they kind of hit their stride, and they were a true joy to watch, and I was very happy for them reaching the state tournament. Very proud. Our team tennis, which in the fall they play team tennis, and then in the spring that's more of an individual. They won the District 21 5A championship and reached to the Region 3 tournament. It used to be you went straight from district to regional tournament. Now it's more like the other playoffs. You go by district area. So we're very, very proud of them and their coach, James Meyer. Our cross-country team reached the Class 5A meet, and the boys had 1 qualifier while our girls, the team, qualified. So we were very, very proud of Kevin Spruill and the job that he did with our cross-country program. Our basketball team on the girls reached the Region 3 quarterfinals, got beat by a really good Pflugerville team, but the girls really played hard. They were a fun group to watch, very close group of kids. The boys team qualified for the playoffs in a very difficult district, and they ran into a very good team that got beat in the regional tournament finals. Our powerlifting team, we had two lifters competing at state. As y'all well know, Lauren Matula in a swing was the 500 freestyle state champion, and let me tell you, she just missed it by a little bit in the 200 meter. It was nip and tuck all the way to the end. And I'd like to say something about Julie as a silver medalist. Julie was leading into the last few dives, and the young lady that got ahead of her just did two unbelievable, I don't even know what you call it, summer's half twist. I mean, just incredible. And she hit two in a row and just kind of edged Julie out. So, you know, it's kind of like I told Aaron Villamez, you know, Julie didn't lose it. That girl just won it. And I couldn't be even any more proud of Julie the way that after watching that dive, I got to follow this. And she did an outstanding job. And our girls team finished in the top 10 of the state at the state meet. So we're very, very happy about that. Pat Kennedy, the head football coach at Lake Creek, was named Coach of the Year. James Maurer was Coach of the Year in team tennis. And Taryn Driver was Lake Creek High School. She was selected to Conroe Courier Coach of the Year. So very proud of those three and very proud of their staffs. You know, one person doesn't do it. It's the entire staff that does that. Another thing that I'm extremely proud of, as of March, and it's going to be more as we go, we have 49 Montgomery ISD student athletes that will be taking their athletic talents and using that to further their academic achievement at the collegiate level. And on that, I kind of have a statistic, and parents sometimes they get a little miffed at me, but I think it's very important to keep everything in balance. The NCAA is made up of 977 universities divided into three categories. There's about 1 million kids that play football and a little over 1 million kids that play basketball in the United States of America. There are 20, and that's my phone, and I apologize. I have it off, so I don't
They're
know
waiting
what's
for you to
going
throw
on.
the first pitch out.
They can't start without you.
Anyway.
Peggy Sam brings some milk home on the way back.
Yeah. And there are 25,000 kids at the 977 schools that compete for NCAA championships. But truly the thing that people need to understand, most of them aren't on an athletic scholarship. They're on an academic scholarship. So our focus to ensure that we have academic achievement and athletic achievement is I think is beared out by that statistic. And that's something that as long as I'm in charge of the athletics, we're going to continue to do because I believe in it strongly. You know, when I was going to school, the saying was the first place the recruiter goes is the counselor. We're going to find out what his grades are and what kind of kid or her, what kind of kid they are. And it still holds true. Goal 2 is school safety. Again, we'll host about 739 events in 180 days on our 4 campuses. I work very closely with Chief Phillips. I can't say enough good things about Chief. He's an outstanding partner and his police department to make sure that we have processes in place that there's safety for all the folks that attend our games. And then, of course, our campus administration, I can't imagine 2 finer leaders than we have at our campuses, Tim Williams at Lake Creek and Noah Highlander at MHS and Angie Chapman at MJHS and Gifford Whitehead at Oak Hills. They're just great to work with. We communicate always. We deal with adversity together, and they are very good. But the one thing that we're going to continue to do is we're going to have a zero tolerance for hazing and bullying. There's no place in that. There's no place in that for in our society or especially in athletics or team. Again, emphasizing everybody brings value to the team, and everyone it has to be a part of it, and we're all important. With finance, you host 739 events. You got to count money for 739 events. Working with Mr. Lynn, who's a great partner. Also working on the forecasting of our budget for athletics. I walk into a stadium, I see 3 officials, 3 workers, a gatekeeper, and I look and see how many people are in the stands, and are we going to get close to breaking even tonight? That's kind of. I do it when I go to an Aggie game. I'm like, holy smokes, man! But it's fun. And then, of course, working with Joe Kennard, he's a great partner, and our Spencer Ferguson, who took Jesse Offord. Jesse retired. To make sure the maintenance are found. We do have a reputation as some of the finest natural grass fields in the state of Texas, and we're going to continue to do that. I have regular meetings with our coordinators to ensure that we're following policies and procedures, especially financial, by our coaching staff as they buy and purchase and feed our kids. Human capital needs, I have intentional messages to our staff about different issues that we're facing not only locally but nationally. You know, I talked to a lot of ADs, we're all kind of facing the same problems, but we want an intentional message, whether it's directly from me or from me to the coordinators to share with the coaches, just to make sure that, to make them aware and to make them to look for certain things. And of course, I have regular meetings with our campus athletic administrators at each of our campuses to ensure that we're continuing to make this a place where you want to come and you want to teach and you want to coach. Communication and customer service, whenever there's a question, we want to answer it in a timely manner. Again, working with Joe, we continue to make sure that we have very clean, the goal, if you've ever been to Dodger Stadium, it's an old stadium. It's the cleanest stadium I've ever been into in my life. It was just spotless. That's my goal for our facilities. And then also with communication, we have a preseason. Every sport has a preseason meeting. And there's a lot into that. We talk about our CAP agreement. You know, how do parents and coaches resolve conflict? What are the rules? You know, all these types of things. And then in this agreement, it just kind of lays out, let's make everybody aware, here are the rules, they're out there. Things like UIL regulations, all these types of things, behavior expectation by parents and stands, making it very clear what our expectation, not only from the coach, but from the district is as we progress into this team, so everybody understands and works together. And that's the end of it. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but once again, I want to thank y'all for your tremendous support. It's very gratifying for us to come to work every day and work under the board's leadership and Dr. Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. Questions?
Coach Hurd, I've got a question. You mentioned the turf with the softball and baseball and all that being done. I know that obviously that'll lower maintenance costs moving forward. Is there revenue opportunity there as well? I mean, from playoffs and things like that?
Yes, sir. I think there could be some revenue opportunities. I think it's something we're going to have to look at. You know, historically with natural grass, we've been very protective of that. Synthetic turf gives you some other issues that you want to make sure that you have in hand and have a clear understanding of. So, but yes, there could be some revenue producing opportunities by moving to synthetic turf.
Great. Other questions? I want to say thank you for sharing your statistic about the academics and the athletics, and I think a lot of folks need to keep that in mind. My only question for you is who's going to win the baseball game tonight?
I don't know until I get there.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, folks, let's go back to item 7A, strategic plan update, STAR update.
Thank you, Dr. Fuller. We're going to ask Dr. Summers, our Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction, to come up and give you an update on the numerous changes that have been happening with STAR testing. As you know, about this time of year, there's a pretty high level of anxiety and pressure that our educators feel, and sometimes, unfortunately, our students feel. We all want to do well. As I constantly say, STAR ratings are not the most important accountability for our school district, but they are important. And we all feel the same way. If we're going to get measured, we want to do as well as we can. There are some real challenges this year that across the state of Texas, school boards and superintendents are sharing with their communities, because anytime you do a change, oftentimes in a state, they will ask the question, let's go ahead and give the test, share the results, but should we do the ratings? And as I've said in numerous community meetings recently, in 49 states, if you were simply to go all online testing, you would have a year in your state where you would give out the scores, but you would not do the ratings. If you were to do substantive changes to the test itself, you would release the test results, but you would not do the ratings. If you were to change the actual system itself, the rubric, you would give out the scores, but you would not do the ratings. We're going to do all three in 1 year. I think Chris Summers is going to give you the best update we have, but there are still things that have not been determined, and somehow in Texas, we're still going to do the ratings. I think this is a district under the leadership of this board that is not shy about being held accountable. We have a strategic plan that our lawmakers show up and share with others because of our dedication to key performance indicators and holding ourselves accountable. But there's a fairness to this that I think probably is worthy of a community conversation. So Dr. Summers.
All right, that's a good lead up. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about A through F accountability. As I've mentioned before, TA is always tweaking this and changing and updating. They have released some of the information, and so I wanted to give that to you today. But the parentheses there are very relevant and pertinent. This is what we know now, for now, and we'll see kind of where it goes from here. And they are still adjusting some things, taking some feedback, but here's what we know about what the A through F accountability system is going to look like going forward. Now, before I jump into that, I want to use an analogy, and I'm going to use this piñata analogy. So the state of Texas says, go ahead, MISD. Here's the stick, here's the piñata, whack it, knock it in half, get the candy, and have fun. But we know that with the game of piñata, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult. And so TEA does some things like every now and then they don't release information in a timely fashion, or they might change some of the parameters. And so that's the blindfold of the analogy, right? So they're saying, go ahead and hit that piñata, but let's put this blindfold on you just to make it a little harder. And then we also know that this has been the case for a while, that TEA has all kinds of tripwires, calculations. I'm going to show you some of the ones that are changing now. And so just even keeping track of all of the sort of the rubrics and the mechanisms for how they calculate a score in a particular domain can be very confusing. So that's the spin you around part of a piñata, right? So just that alone, being blindfolded and spun around, makes hitting a piñata hard. But TEA this year has decided to take it up a level. And now not only are they blindfolding us and spinning us around, but they're actually yanking on the rope to the piñata. And so as we even have our best whack at it, they're pulling the rope and yanking the piñata out of our way. And I'll show you what I mean by that.
That sounds like school finance.
What's that?
That sounds like school finance.
Yeah, well, sometimes they're very tightly aligned. So here's what we know so far. If you remember, when our A through F rating, it's based on a couple of different things, whether you're elementary at the top, middle school have the same sort of mechanism, and then high schools, really you look at what does the district do or the campus do the best. One is star performance, which is basically how many of your kiddos pass star or do exceptionally well on star, or academic growth, how many kids in your district or on your campus had basically a year's worth of growth, or star performance with CCMR added into it for the high schools. Any of those that you do the best at, that's what your school is going to get graded on. The idea being, if you're a school where students perform typically pretty well, then that's going to be your best measure. But if you're a school that maybe you're an improvement, those kinds of things, but you're showing a lot of growth, you'll get credit for that. So that's how the structure is set up. The circles on the very far right of that table is domain 3, which that's the one that takes a little slice of performance and a little slice of growth, and then also takes a look at your English language learners and all the little small demographics within your district as a piece. And that's about 30%. So 70% of your score comes from either performance or growth, and then 30% of your rating, whether it's campus or district, comes from all those little other slivers from the pie. So that's just a general breakdown. Nothing in that has really changed. Those rules are staying the same for A through F.
But what I want to talk about next is, again, just a quick reminder, STAR performance. That's your number of students that hit the approaches. That's the bare minimum considered passing STAR. Then the percent of students that are at meets grade level or above, and the percent that are at masters. You add all those up, divide by 3, because there's 3 categories, and that gives you your STAR performance score. So that's been that way, or it's been calculated that way for many, many years now. We're pretty used to that. But what I want to talk a little bit about is what they're doing to the high schools with regard to CCMR, College Career Military Readiness, because that is a big one. Here's how they calculate college career military readiness. Basically, there's 9 criteria. There used to be 10, but they got rid of the U.S. Armed Forces one because it was difficult to find out how many kids actually enrolled. You might remember a few years ago, that was part of it, and a lot of districts were knocking CCMR out of the park because all you had to do is basically say, yeah, they met with a recruiter, and you could get credit for that, and it was obviously overinflating things. So they've kind of taken away the how many students enlist in the military and follow through and all that. And basically it's how do you do on, we have a TSI test, which is a basic reading and math readiness test for colleges. Do you get a 3 or a 4 on an AP test? Level 1 and 2 certificates, dual credit courses, industry-based certifications. Do you earn an associate's degree if you're in early college, high school type setup? Those kinds of things. So lots of different categories qualify students for CCMR. None of that has changed.
Dr. Summers, could you go back?
Yep.
So they struck item 10. So they struck the M in CCMR?
Yes, they have. It's CCR now, so a little Credence Clearwater.
There you go.
So I guess for me, I would just, one of the things that I love about our school district at graduation is we recognize the young men and women who go into military service. And I don't really care if the TEA strikes that. I hope we continue to look at that as a point of pride for us.
Yeah. Yeah, and we still definitely focus on that with our ROTC program. They will probably try to bring that in, but apparently the TEA in the state of Texas had some sort of a interlocal agreement where they would get those reserve or those enlisting numbers from the military, but somewhere along the line, some communication breakdowns, and they don't get that data in a timely fashion. So for now, they have removed the M from the CCMR. Good observation. So the CCMR is going to be based on, so the ratings that we will get in September, I'll get to that in a little bit, but the ratings that we get in September of next school year will be based on the 21-22 graduates, the CCMR component on the 21-22 graduates. Last year's graduates, which we do not have any control over. That ship has sailed. Those students have graduated. They're no longer in our school system.
Dr. Summers, were we aware when they graduated what the criteria was going to be for our upcoming STAR assessment and accountability?
We were not. That would be, using my piñata analogy, that would be the yanking of the string. We thought the piñata was going to be here. We get ready to swing at it. It's now been yanked. And I have a slide that kind of points to that. So one of the ways in which they've changed that is prior to a couple of years ago, they started phasing out some industry-based certifications that were a little bit easier to get, and they weren't necessarily super meaningful for a career. It'd be like a Microsoft certification and some other things like that. So they started phasing those out, and they told us that ahead of time that those aren't going to count. But what they didn't tell us is that for this year, they were sunsetting them, but for this year, any students that, again, graduated in 21-22, if any of them had those sunsetting industry-based certifications, you're only going to be able to count either 5 graduates or up to 20% of all your graduates. So if we had a significant number of students that had those sunsetting IBC certifications as their qualification for CCMR, we can only count 20% of those students. That was something we didn't know about. And again, they've already graduated, they're done. We have no way to go back and sort of ameliorate that and fix that. So that was one example. Here's the, I like to kind of give another analogy. The problem with that is, if you look at the very bottom, I relate this to, it would be like a teacher assigning a project, right, with detailed requirements for that project completion. and then changing the requirements after the students already completed or submitted their projects. If we found out teachers were doing that, we'd probably have a nice long line of parents out the door, right? Rightly so, concerned. We would be having conversations with those teachers or the campuses that are doing that. It's not appropriate, it's not right, but yet that's what TEA's done with only allowing 20% of the graduates. We didn't know that a year ago. It was just made this year. So that's one part of CCMR. The other big change for CCMR, and this one's the one that's more profound, TEA has said that, so they take your CCMR score and then they break it down to a scale of, okay, this number means an A, this means a C, this means a B, and so on. For instance, for our campuses last year, MHS was a 65, so for the 2018-2022, for that year, that time span, MHS last year was an A for CCMR, for that component of Domain 3. Lake Creek was a 55, so they were like, I think it came in as like an 88 or something like that. They were really close. So they were a B on that. What TEA has said is, okay, we're looking at all these schools. Everybody's getting really, really good now at CCMR, and everybody's getting an A. Now remember, TEA will tell you that this system is built so that everybody theoretically can get an A. Well, a lot of people are now getting an A on CCMR, and TEA is going, well, I don't know if that's quite right. We probably need to make it a little more rigorous to get an A in CCMR. And so what they've done is they've decided to change the scale, basically shift the slope up. And so the proposal is that now the equivalent of an 88 will get you a 90 or an A. So I put this little chart over there on the right-hand side. If you look at across, an A up until last year was a 60. MHS was a 65. So if we do nothing different, like we just sustain what we did last year, so we get another 65 at MHS this year in CCMR. Last year they were an A. This year they will be a B, right? They'll be barely over well, they'll be in the C category. I apologize. They'll be a C. They'll be just slightly over the minimum for a C. So you can see some of the quandaries that we're left with, where we could potentially be sharing with our community that MHS for CCMR is now a C campus, and people would say, rightly so, well, what in the world happened at MHS? What did y'all do to fall from an A to a C? We actually did nothing wrong. We're making progress. We could even be at around an 80 and make progress from a 65 to an 80, and we're going to fall from an A to a B on the CCMR rating. So TEA has decided to change the scale score. Kind of using that analogy of the classroom, that's a 47% increase. Again, pretty much arbitrarily. They try to justify why they would move it up that many points, but by and large, it's an arbitrary choice. This would be like a teacher assigning a project with a specific parameter for earning a particular grade level, and then changing the grading requirements after students completed it, right? You would give them a rubric, say, do this, this, and this to get your A, turn in your paper. Oh, you know what? I think I want you to do this, this, and this to get the A, but I'm not giving you your paper or your project back to change anything. You'll just have to hope for the best. And that's kind of where we are with the CCMR scale scores. There has been some feedback given around that, but I don't have any indication that TA is going to change that. What they've advised us to do is what I'm doing tonight, which is share that with your board and community so that they have ample time to come to terms with this shift in CCMR scores.
Well, I'll invite them to get their formulas straight. I mean, it's kind of arbitrary at this point if it's like nailing Jell-O to a wall, if they're going to keep moving the points on us and not really tell us how to get there. So that's my invitation back to them.
So CCMR is being adjusted significantly with the scale score, and so we'll see sort of how they do that. Now, I will say the one thing that we can offset it by is domain 2 in the A through F. So if we do academic growth really, really well, you'll notice that for high schools, remember it's either performance or growth. So performance has that CCMR piece in it that we're not thrilled about. But growth is unchanged, and actually they've made one little adjustment to it that is actually a little bit of a bonus. So if we do growth really well, if we make sure all students in MISD have a year's worth of growth on the STAR test from one year to the next, then that'll really make Domain 1 irrelevant in respects to A through F, while we'll still complain that it's not a very good process for how they do it. Here's what academic growth is going to look like. So in the past, academic growth was only annual growth. I've used the illustration before just for simple math. On the 4th grade test in math, I got 1,000 scale score last year. I need on this year's 5th grade math test, I need to get relatively close to 1,000 scale score on this test. That would qualify me for a year's worth of growth. But we know too, a couple of years ago, they passed House Bill 4545. And now we're going to be accountable for how well those students do as well. So are they making a year's worth of growth after being in our sort of acceleration and intervention program? But what they did with that is decided not to make it punitive. It can really only help. And the way they're going to do that is this. They are going to give you credit if you did not meet standard on the STAR test, and if you didn't meet it again next year or the following year, but you made significant progress, you can get a half a point. And each of the little categories have half points and full points. So they gave you more opportunities to earn some points towards this calculation, so that's helpful, and it's fair, because you could see a situation where a student, say they met standard on, or they were approaching on the STAR test, and the next year they didn't quite get to that 1,000, so maybe they went from 1,000 to like 995. In the old days, under academic growth, you would get 0 points for that. In the new one, you would get a half a point for that, because you were like really close, but you didn't get the full year's worth of growth. So they did give us some benefit on that. And then they're going to take and look at your 45 kids, and all the kids that made growth on that, you will get a 0.25 bonus for those students. So academic growth used to just be annual growth. Now it's going to be, here's a little cake analogy for you that hopefully will help you see it. You'll get annual growth is the main thing, and that's how it's been pretty much the whole time. Now, though, you get those little half points that help. And then the 45-45 is icing on the annual growth. It can help you, but it can't hurt you. So if a student's in 45-45 and they don't make a year's worth of growth, you're not subtracted, say, 0.25 points or anything. It can only help.
But a student this year will be taking a fundamentally different STAR test than they did last year, correct?
They will be yes, they will be
So
taking.
we have to trust that they have a way to measure that growth on 2 radically different assessments, correct?
They are releasing new scale scores for that and cut points, but they were going to change all the scale scores, and then they realized, oh wait, we're moving from a largely paper and pencil test to an online test, and students that took it on online did have slightly lower scores last year, and so in their wisdom they decided not to change the scale score cut marks for this year. So it's a different test in that it's online and not paper pencil, but yes, it's always the moving target. This is more of the yanking of the rope, right, to see where our students are going to be. And we are going to still get rated A through F through all of this, as Dr. Morrison pointed out at the beginning here. So those are all the components there, and then I just pointed out that, again, there's 30% over there that they're going to look at. So what does this mean for the district? So there is one more change to the A through F rating system. So we've talked about how it's changing for the campuses and how they'll get a score. Well, the district rating is also going to change a little bit because they noticed something else was happening in the A through F rating system, and that was they would see districts that would have an overall B rating, but then you would look at their campuses, and they could have several campuses that were either C, D, or F rated, but then how do you have a B rated district? And that's because a lot of the times, if you go back, a lot of them, if you look at the high schools, like in this example, the old model, the district was really driven more by high school ratings because of the CCMR and those kinds of things. So what they decided to do is change to a proportional rating system. And so what they're going to do now is look at each campus as a proportion or ratio of your overall district. So for simple, easy math, if we have 1,000 kids, in the district, and campus one has 200 kids, then they're going to be 20% of the district rating. And if another campus has 300 kids, they'll be 30%, and so on. You calculate, here's the fun part, right? The sort of spinning you around of the pinata analogy. Here's all the little tripwires. So you're going to take each campus, calculate their domain 1, domain 2, domain 3. Then you're going to go and look at each campus's proportion of the district's population. You will calculate, then you will take that proportion times their domain 1 score, their domain 2 score, their domain 3 score. Then you'll take the best of those for each campus, and that will contribute to the district's campus rating. And so that's how they're hoping to alleviate the situation where you could have a B district and have a lot of C, D, and F campuses. What makes that tricky is going into it like it's really hard to project what's going to be best for each campus. Is it going to be performance? Is it going to be growth? And all of those breakdowns. And they are going to release a what if based on last year's data. So they're going to take the new system with the proportional rating. In April, they're going to release out to the districts a what if. So here's your score last year, right? We were an A district last year. Run it through the what if, and then it'll spit out what we would be this year with last year's data. So I'm not sure where it'll be. We did have a rough estimate from ESC. It was a couple months ago. It was back in November, I think. And it did drop us 2 points. We stayed in A district, but it did drop us 2 points. I think so we'll see what the new calculations roll out. But that is how they plan on fixing the situation where the district rating is that way. So again, you'll look at domain 1, 2, or 2B for each of the campuses, and their proportion of your district will be what gives you an overall district rating. That framework has already been released, but it's still being modified. In April and May, like I mentioned, we'll get a what if report. It'll be put out in teal. We'll be able to see what our rating from last year would look like in the new system. And then the final accountability will come out in August of 2023, after the next school year gets started. And in September of 23, we will get our A through F accountability ratings release.
And Dr. Summers, when were we able to share with the majority of our schools what the STAR test this year would look like?
We got the information with some examples around August, late July and August. So, there were a few little things bouncing around on TEA, but yeah, we did all of the training.
And when were we able to update our schools on the full measures of what it would take to get an A or a B or a C?
Well, right when, August as well, right when, the ratings came out for this one. And I have actually, I'm going to be going over all of this with our principals on Thursday. So
when they release the what if, they're releasing that in April. When do we take STAR?
Depending on when they release it in April, we might have already taken the STAR test for this year. So
the what if is to give us an indication of what we would need to do to maintain our A rating?
On a test that might already be taken?
Before you
We've already got it.
The data for high schools or kids that we've already graduated.
Yeah, so that is one of the other little layers that we're having to navigate is we could potentially have a few students who are needing to pass one of the EOC tests. And when we get that data back, because we're not going to get any raw score data back, cut scores and those kinds of things until this summer, till the end of June, early July. Although for high school, we'll get a list of non-passers because they didn't have to take the test one more time in June. But yeah, all of the information will come in incredibly late. We won't get itemized or item analysis data for this year's STAR test until probably late July, early August. So again, very late. That's the blindfold piece to that little piñata analogy. And that's kind of where we're at. Can hold out hope that they come to their senses and don't put A through F accountability ratings out next year. But as of right now, they're holding true to that's what they want to do because that's what's right for the community in the state of Texas.
Of course it is.
Tongue in cheek aside, So, board members, are there any questions?
Yep.
While I let my blood pressure moderate a little bit.
We're all looking at each other perplexed. This is crazy.
Yeah,
But, you like that? But I want our teachers to know, we just want them to keep doing what they're doing because we're proud of them and what they've been doing and not let this affect their morale and the culture of our district. And the good news is everybody's in the same boat. All districts are in the same boat.
Yeah, absolutely. And
But-
our principals have done a great job of that, of just, hey, let's focus on students, let's focus on the standards, let's get them that year's worth of growth. We do that well, we teach well every day. Those things will take care of themselves, and that's what we're sticking to.
I'll echo what Ms. Turner said, and we're an A-rated school district, and this is actually an A system. It's A for absurd, and this is ridiculous to me. I don't want any teacher or administrator or any team member in Montgomery taking on too much of this as our identity. This rating does not represent who we are in every case, and I think the same thing should be said about our students. They don't need to see themselves as a star, expert, a number that they've got. Thank you, Mr. Kirby. And so I would just encourage everybody in the administrative team and in every classroom to just continue what you're doing. Thank y'all for what you're doing. Community members, I hope y'all will be active and voice your opinion and your concern if you have them with us and other elected officials and see what we can do. So thank you, Dr. Summers.
You're welcome, and as we get any newer updates, I'll be sure to come back and fill you
This is
in.
Dr. Summers is stepping away from the podium. I just want to emphasize, this is a district that embraces accountability. We're not afraid of high standards. There's not anything about the push to higher standards or better accountability that is more transparency to really show how schools and school districts are doing that we don't want to be a part of. Again, it's just fundamentally challenging. I think the hardest job in this district with all of this is going to belong to Mr. Moreno, because how do you explain to the public that we're being evaluated on this year's performance with kids who graduated last year? How do you talk about growth when the kids are taking a fundamentally different test? And again, this is why 49 states choose to baseline the performance, make sure that the new test has validity and reliability. Still give the assessments. There will still be newspaper stories that say scores went up or scores went down. But it's just the idea of assigning the ratings that really, it just feels like a bait and switch. And there's a lot of districts that have articulated that directly to TEA, directly to their state legislators, and hopefully something will come out of that.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Morrison, Dr. Summers. All right, folks, remember earlier when I said I wanted to jostle a few things on information around? I'd like to make a motion that we table item 7C, communication department update, so we have the benefit of some time to do a little bit of extra presentation in April, if y'all don't mind. So I'll make that motion.
Can I amend it's a little bit more discussion than presentation.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. So we will have a discussion in April if this tabling passes. So I'll make the motion to table. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kirby. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the motion is tabled to a future date. And then item 7D, bond update.
Well, my head hurts after all of that, so I'm going to keep this real simple. This is our first board meeting that we can say we have officially broken ground on a 2022 bond project.
Awesome.
So,
Congratulations.
although it's a relatively small start, we are working on the parking lot addition at Lake Creek High School. So ground has been broken. We're looking forward to probably our first concrete pour sometime next week. So if you are bored around midnight, feel free to come join me at the concrete pour, and we'll watch some concrete being placed. But other than that, all of our we released today drawings for Creekside Elementary and the Lake Creek High School addition. So Pogue Contractors are out there going to start pricing that. We'll be bringing you a guaranteed maximum price for those two projects at your May 2nd board workshop. And we'll be hosting groundbreaking ceremony sometime in mid-May for Creekside Elementary. So start looking for your hard hats and your construction outfits. We want to get those pictures. We are blowing and going. The summer renovation work, we're getting all the details finalized for that and getting all those subcontractors signed up. Montgomery High School, we've already started having meetings about the renovations that are going to take place there. We're meeting with AD Hurd on Thursday, continuing our conversations about artificial turf, renovations to the athletic stadium. So there is a lot of activity going on, but we have officially broken ground. So off to the races.
That's a great update, Mr. Lynn. Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Lynn? All right, and then monthly financial report, board members 7E. Any questions? All right. Hearing no questions, I'd like to adjourn this meeting.